Live in three, two, one.
Okay, live this end of the pond. How are you, Donald? You there?
Yes, I am here.
Okay.
We are connecting across the pond between the United States and the UK. Welcome back for another awesome episode of Patriotic Art Live.
Yes.
Patriarch, what is today's theme?
Today's theme, Donald. We are helping a brother out. So last week we were focused on the sort of the condition of the food industries and the pharmaceutical industries that are kind of running a riot and really poisoning our societies. And
Yeah.
we highlighted the some of the problems that you've faced personally as a result of a lot of this stuff through family mishaps and personal health issues that's going off.
Yeah.
And
Right.
obviously, we mentioned that we're banding together some of our circle of friends, and we're looking to help you out in your situation. And we've come up with a sort of an art-based auction, which is like a collective commission event, and it's like a GoFundMe that we're going to be doing together. And today we're, I guess, essentially introducing that art auction, and we're going to be doing some collaborative artwork on a theme that will basically showcase what people can look forward to when they, donate and share their ideas. So let me get the screen back up on my end.
Is that the crowdfunder? Is it GoFundMe or what service are you using?
Yes, it's a GoFundMe. Sorry, I'm just making sure my screen is active. Something isn't quite showing yet.
Well, I'll chat a little bit while you're working on that.
Yeah, no, we're back. We're here. We're here. So sorry, Donald. We're back. So yeah, we are doing we're basically doing a creative theme with a view to support the art auction. It's a collective commission whereby we are encouraging people to donate towards the cause in support of yourself, who's in sort of dire straits with financial need and things, lots of jobs fallen through and health issues. And so this collective commission, for a small donation, the people submit an idea along with the donation of an art piece that they would like to see made by yourself and me. And we'll endeavor to pick out some of the top entries and then get to work. We're going to be streaming them over the course of these sort of the next month or two, or well, sort of a little bit later when obviously the winners get announced. But yeah, for now, today we was gonna sort of do a demonstration of some of the artworks. There was a poll I put out earlier, and the one that got voted in was Celtic Seer, which is a pretty cool idea. People quite like the Celtic vibe, and a seer is a traditional sort of rooted in, I guess, this sort of Viking Norse cultures.
Well, that's so what I'm doing is actually a theme on the help a brother out topic. So because we're launching that crowdfunder, and so it just seemed like that's what I could do here. So I'm the image that people can see here is a soldier carrying another soldier. There's going to be explosions in the background to kind of show a theme of us. I think symbolically we are in a kind of war, a war to end white genocide, a war to take back our countries. Right now it's sort of mostly an information war. Things, I mean, everybody who's tuned into this culture knows what's going on, and so I don't have to explain it too much. But you know, my personal situation here. So I am in a situation where I've got personal health issues. I've had some family members die and or are dying. The clients that I was caring for at my job, one passed away, and the other is in hospice. And as a result, I suddenly became unemployed. And this kind of situation is completely surreal for me. That like everything bottoms out at the same time, and all these horrible personal tragedies with all these deaths and illnesses are occurring simultaneously. So I kind of went through a very, very bad patch there where I was, you know, almost like non-functional
Mm-hmm.
at some point. It was just it's bad enough for one of these things to happen, but for all of them to happen at the same time is uncanny. Really, it's almost like something you'd only see in a movie or something. It's just totally surreal.
Yeah.
And so I just naturally I had to reach out to some friends and kind of talk about what I was going through. And you very kindly thought up this idea of this fundraiser concept, help a brother out. And then suddenly a bunch of our guys, in different groups and spheres within our movement all jumped on board. And so we've got Patriotic Alternative, American Freedom Party, White Art Collective. Um, it's I didn't ask for this. I didn't know this was going to happen.
No,
So I'm,
no.
I'm like more than. I mean, I'm deeply moved by the charity and kindness. Um, Almost 3 years ago, my mother passed away. It was very tragic, and Nullis of the White Art Collective put together a fundraiser for me because there were funeral expenses and all kinds of things that just came out of the blue, and it was just a very hard time. So you know this kind of activity is really, I don't know how to say it, but it's you really know your friends when you're down. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And but you've taken it a step further. You have this concept that will keep this going, so that if anytime anybody in our culture and our struggle hits hard times, then we can do a crowdfunder for them.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's not really
definitely.
just right. It's not just me, but my circumstances inspired you to
Yeah.
invent this concept. And I'm like, I'm surprised. Well, I'm not surprised, but I just think it's an amazing concept. I would say that since we're artists and there's a lot of artists in our culture, we can use our skills to create works that can be auctioned off. And there was during the period where my mother passed away and people were helping me out, that's exactly what was happening. I sent out a lot of my original art to people who donated, and I'm telling you that that had a very, very significant impact on helping me through that insane time. It was, I mean, I don't have to kind of get into the nitty gritty about grieving the death of a parent, but my particular case, my family abandoned me because they're all kind of normie, type people that think, oh, you're supposed to be vaccinated, and I'm anti-vax, and I know they thought, oh, well, you convinced her not to get it, and I'm still like the black sheep now because of this. There's still
Wow.
my uncle just passed away last week. I wasn't invited to the funeral. I mean,
Really,
it's
that's
this
sad.
this
That is
kind
pretty
it's
sad.
this it's abuse. It's neglect. It's, I don't know what to call it, but it, for a family to disown you like that is profound. And it's just amazing how people in the movement are more a family to me than my own family. You
Yeah.
see what I'm saying? Yeah. So
But
I
the
just
ironic thing is though that your uncle blamed you for, the loss of life with your mother who chose not to get vaccinated, right? And
and
then
it was a nurse for 60 years, by the way. She's a
yeah,
nurse,
yeah, yeah.
so she's not
But
stupid. She's yeah.
but your uncle, has sort of like almost over a year later has kind of passed away as well, right? So
Exactly.
it
Yeah.
you know it's not like he's any better off or he was in the right with his choice. And the
Yeah.
data
Yeah.
really, although they choose to be blind to it, um, taking the vaccine was the best option. I mean, all my family members, really, all of them, ended up having COVID, or
Yeah.
got diagnosed with
Yeah.
it or whatever. I'm not saying
Right.
we're not saying COVID
Ridiculous.
didn't exist. We're saying that these
Yeah. Yeah.
these
Yeah.
vaccines and stuff were just completely um, mass produced with a view to just make money with little care for the
Well,
people.
there's much more.
Well,
There's much more to it than
there is, but that's kind of
yeah.
like the nth sort of degree, sort of
Correct.
conspiratorial stuff. But we can confirm quite easily that it was a money grab. That's one thing we can
For sure.
definitely say, and
Absolutely.
with
Absolutely. Absolutely.
certainty. It was just
Right.
everyone rushing to make money off the situation and completely capitalize on it. If it wasn't pre-planned, obviously there's strong evidence for that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm doing a similar theme, by the way, to help a brother out. But since I put the poll out earlier, I want to kind of embed the theme of Celtic seer into the notion of helping a brother out. So this Celtic seer is I'm going to do a few different compositions, but this Celtic seer
Mm-hmm.
is going to be sort of helping
Yeah.
and aiding through his charms and his
Mm.
what do you call it, necromancy and
Ooh.
brotherly
Ooh.
magic.
Nice.
He
Nice.
is helping a brother out with some sweet
Very
concoction.
nice. That's good. I could use a sweet concoction right now.
Yeah, yeah, I bet.
Um, so yeah, I just it's awesome. I think it's wonderful. And again, the support with these other organizations that stepped up. So, I mean, I'll like I've stated before, I feel that's a bit of a pride thing. I'm a little embarrassed to have this need, and I don't kind of want to sort of shout it to the hills or whatever. But I'm you know the fact is it's a crazy situation I'm in. I
Mm-hmm.
don't really have any family support at all.
Yeah.
I'm the bad guy. If they only knew my work in the white positive sphere,
Wow.
that 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 would seal the deal. But
Are
yeah.
they
Anyway,
typically left wing then? Left orientated?
some of them are, but I actually, one of them very, very recently finally admitted that she has heart problems due to the jab.
Wow.
And because, like, my brother just had some like very major surgery. He's on the brink. He's really on the doorstep right now. It's very serious. And again, I gotta sort of be careful about how much I give away here, just for whatever privacy. But it finally came through that, like, yeah, this damn shot is screwing people up,
Mm.
So I don't know. It's just it is what it is, and I don't want anybody to be hurt. Obviously, I don't have any ill. I'm hurt, of course, by being abandoned, but the thing that constantly intrigues me is trying to understand the sociology of this thing, is the behavioral manipulation, and how, I mean, the whole thing, I think, was a very successful experiment in terms of, like, getting people to flock like sheep towards getting the jab and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This is obviously, a serious problem, but, and I would say that it's one of the things that our movement has to do a deep dive on, and really ask ourselves, like, why are our people so easily manipulated and so easily brainwashed? Granted, we know who controls the media. We know all of these various other attributes to the situation. So it's not like, how do I say, like, that when someone is being intentionally manipulated, that's one thing, right? Like people do fall for scams and this and that. It's just common, and it's not exclusively white people, right?
Hmm.
But nevertheless, I feel very strongly that we have to find a way to prevent these things from happening in the future. We have to have some form of education. I would say that, you know, it's pretty well agreed upon that, whites are, previously we had, high trust societies where it was just our people. And as such, we left our doors unlocked at night. We left our car doors unlocked. We didn't have to fear, walking around in the marketplace, or sending your kids to school, or all the various issues. We knew, what was
Hmm.
what. But now it's not like that anymore, and this is what's happening. So, um, on a larger scale, though, I feel like, yeah, it's just a big discussion. We should try to, perhaps at the very least, take it upon ourselves to try to promote the idea of critical thinking more among our people, and try to have a sense of, like, have you looked up XYZ? And now, granted, the our enemies know how to manipulate that too. They've got fact checkers, and
Yeah,
they've got all
yeah,
kinds of. But the just like the behavior of, like, people, how do I say, they're kind of like slaves who are protecting the slave plantation. You know what I'm saying? It's pretty disturbing, and I haven't figured it out. I don't have an answer for that, but it's a big
yeah. I think
issue.
it's. I mean, it's essentially it's just sort of dogmatic behavior, isn't it? And you see it all
Yeah.
over, and it's baked into the uh, the things that people read, and I mean, everyone is
Hmm.
subject to propaganda. There's no
Yeah.
escaping
Yeah.
propaganda, but there's good propaganda,
Hmm.
there's bad propaganda, there's true propaganda, and there's false
Sure.
propaganda. It kind of boils down to that, doesn't it? And
Right. That's well said.
unfortunately, a lot of our people have kind of are suckling on the honeypot of lies and deception
Hmm. Hmm.
that appears good, but is actually
Hmm.
just completely toxic. I was reading somewhere the other day about Karl Marx, for example. I mean, not most of these
Yeah.
people would be sort of, somewhat sympathetic to communism as some notion of equality. Apparently, Karl
Right.
Marx was one of the biggest losers going. Like
Oh God.
he
Yeah.
refused to
He was a.
work and things like this, and
Yeah.
as a
Yeah. He
kind
was a.
of, so no wonder it has all this appeal to the absolute kind of dregs that claim,
Totally.
oh,
Totally.
I'm standing
Yeah.
in
Communist.
defiance like
Yeah.
Mr. Marx,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, when
You,
it's like an excuse, a get out card for being a lazy ass
mhm.
degenerate.
Right. Right. He was a drunk wife beater.
Yeah.
He's like, I believe his father was a rabbi, changed his name. Um, it's just like, I don't know. I mean, the man was just a shit, basically, And I feel like, I mean, I've always felt that communism is the proxy political ideology of Zionism. That's how I describe it to people, because
Okay.
when I, like, in my discussions with people about politics and what have you, I will, I tend to use the term Zionism because it's not, the J's. It's not racial, it's ideological, and most people don't. I find most people don't even know what Zionism is. Like, that they've
No,
heard the word,
it's
but they don't.
definitely
They don't
a
actually.
political ideology first and foremost. But
Yes.
it's
Yes.
sort of leverages the biblical precepts as a justification to garner support, especially from a lot of sort of Judeo Christians. And I use that term
Yeah.
Judeo Christianity because that is a perspective of Christianity through the Jewish lens. And it's like somehow the Jews have
Hmm. Hmm.
managed to persuade Western man to how to interpret the Bible through their own lens. And it's
It's horrible.
it's
Yeah.
baffling, you know. how it came about.
Yeah, that
There's so many
right. That's a terrible.
misconceptions, but I don't want to go down
Right.
that sort of rabbit hole today. It's not really
Yeah. Yeah.
the nature of the this stream,
Right. Right.
but yeah, I mean, what do we do? How do we help people? I think many people in our circles that that are sort of based do question
Mm-hmm.
things and are you know uh, sort of rational minded. I think that's one of the
Mm-hmm.
signature markers
Yeah.
for people on the right wing. They tend to be more logical thinkers, traditionally minded.
My thinking is, well, is that it has a lot to do with courage.
Mm.
So in my estimation, the number one cause for whites specifically to become liberal and or just like toe the party line, what have you, is conformity. It's about in-group preference. They care more about fitting in and not being ostracized. And
Yeah.
that's the whole thing, is they police each other and you and me into, shutting up, or using these kind of canned ideas about, oh well, you've heard them all, those
Mm-hmm.
kind of like nonsense things that people say. They're just a shortcut to thinking.
Yeah.
And but over time, what I've learned how to do is, to kind of approach it almost like you're talking, I don't know, like you're talking to a friend, and you're like, I'll say things like, I can tell you're sincere about this,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm setting a tone with this person and saying, like, I know that if you had access to the actual historical facts of these things, you would see clearly, and by the way, check out, Europa, the Last Battle, or
Mm-hmm.
Parsifal, the hidden causes of World War II. And I'll say things like, if you genuinely want to know the truth, you will look those things up. In the
Yeah.
age of
Yeah.
information, ignorance is a choice. Good luck.
I think
And
so,
just,
definitely.
yeah, yeah. So I've had, like, just very recently, I had one of these kind of debate discussions online, and the guy who was attacking me he sent me like a friend request, because
Right.
somehow or other, I had gotten through to him. I did not accept the friend request. I don't know this guy. I don't know if he's going to report me or if he's a psycho. How it is out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I sort of feel like that made an impact on him. I'll
Mm-hmm.
just put it that way, right? So I think this is a part of being in the movement. If we're not actively trying to help people understand the truth and etc., then we're not really a part of the movement. You don't be a bystander. You can't be a bystander. You can't afford that. Everybody has to do something somehow in some
Mm-hmm.
way. So that's
Yeah,
my
definitely. I mean, people obviously have different, priorities or different means to help, but I think there's always
Mhm.
something that someone can do, whether even if it's sharing or talking to friends or trying to, drop a few seeds, and see if
Mhm.
it falls on receptive ground, things like that, which I'm sure people do really if they're passionate about it. Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
but yeah, I think we've gone past the point of sort of cowardice and
Yeah.
not speaking up on or telling the truth. Like
Mhm.
if I see something like on a YouTube channel or thread
Mhm.
somewhere,
Mhm.
and if I see it's like inaccurate information, like I have to put it right. I can't like
Good.
walk
Good.
away from that and be like, no,
Good. Good.
I
Good. Good.
have I
Yeah.
have to sort of put it right for the sake. And I'm always thinking, there's people that are going to be reading that and take that away. So
Yeah.
I would have kind of
Mhm.
put a little pin in that and say, look, this is what I'm saying. This is the truth. Go and look it up. These are the facts. This is the reality, or
Sure. Sure.
something.
Sure.
So I think we've got an
Yeah.
obligation to call out lies, call out
Yeah.
untruths,
Yeah.
and and pin to them truths, so that whoever's reading, whether they're ignorant of it or not, they may come across it, and and at least there might be someone receptive enough to think, okay,
Mm-hmm.
well, what is this about?
Yeah. So it's a really kind of almost a fun thing to do, really, because I'll post something that is extremely far right and a comment on a social media, maybe Instagram or wherever, and I'll see that it gets 500 likes, but then
Mm-hmm.
it'll have 200 comments, and like 150 of those comments are you're a jerk, Nazi incel,
Yeah, yeah,
and I laugh because to these people I always say insults are not arguments. What do you got?
yeah,
And then they
exactly.
just run back in their little hole. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So insults are not arguments. Like, you guys steal that. You know what I'm saying? Steal that.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a very. I'm telling you, man. Like, you can just like judo flip anybody with that. Anybody
Judo
who's,
flip.
yeah. It works great. It works really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but what's surreal sometimes is how um some people are just so kind of set in their ways. It's like everyone's got their own.
Yeah.
I think to a certain degree, everyone's got
So
their own religion, haven't they? Their religious set of beliefs, and
that's a good way to put it.
they hold
Yeah.
true to it, and you
It's
can't
it's the
budge
religion
because
of
they're so invested.
it's the religion of their ego. You
Yeah,
see,
yeah.
because their identity is so wrapped up in these so-called beliefs, in these lies and delusions, etc., that they have to like be vicious. They have to do death threats, all of this crap, and it's scary. It's not cool, but at the same time it just shows like how desperate they are. They're not really. There was a time once, I think, when they had sort of the upper hand, but like the Overton window has just moved so far that
Mm-hmm.
it's things that you can't ignore certain realities, and it boils down to just having the courage to stand up and say, what, like, Israel is committing genocide in Palestine, or blah 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 blah, whatever the case is. There's like all kinds of different
Yeah.
situations going on in the
I
world right now.
I think I think that's one thing where I think that's probably one of the only subjects where a lot of the right and left are actually find some common ground
Yeah.
is with what is going
Yes.
on in that area, and we can all concretely agree that it's a one-sided bloodbath, and it's pretty harsh.
Much to the chagrin of the tiny hat tribe.
Mm.
You see what I'm saying? Like, and I feel like I had this discussion on my Telegram. Like I'm saying that like the horse is out of the barn. Like it's the mask is off. The more that they squeal and scream and try to shame us for calling them out, etc., the more they are proving our talking points. And so you see what I'm saying? It's like you've been caught red-handed, and then whenever anybody tries to criticize you, you just shut them down and call them dirty names, something something something.
Mm-hmm.
And the public isn't stupid. They can see, like, wow, that just incriminates you more. You see, like, if you actually had a real case or something. I mean, there's no case for genociding these people. There's no, Jared Kushner is out there saying, oh, there's going to be great beachfront property development after we clean out those pesky blah, 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 blah. I mean, what
Yeah,
kind of a man would say such a sick thing? It's this,
I
anyway,
think
so
yeah. I
anyway,
think
yes.
there's
So
like
there's
I mean, they're taught to hate each other from an early age, aren't they? For a start, I think the
right.
Palestinians obviously hate the Israelis for the occupation and the kind of the um, obviously there's more weaponry power that
Uh,
the army there has, and there's so much they've been kind of
mhm,
moved out of their homes and kind of
mhm, mhm.
they grow up with knowing probably at least one ancestor that has been mauled by
Yeah.
you know, wrongly killed, something like that,
Yeah. Yeah. There's some
and
very dark things
terrorized.
that they do. Yeah.
So they grow up sort of with that kind of animosity,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
know, and I think the same happens for the a lot of the Israeli peoples. They're taught to see the Palestinians as you know, dogs, and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's yeah. So it's I can't see there ever being peace there. So it's hard to
No.
really
No.
know you know, how that will be resolved. But yeah, I think there's a lot of looming threats. I mean, there's the whole thing with the Iran, I think, are being drawn in. But
Yeah. 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 Big time. Yeah. So there was
yeah,
a post on it's somewhere in the news. It might have been maybe Steve Bannon's War Room or Justice Report. I can't remember, but the it was a very strange title. It said something like Israel's bombing of Iran's embassy in Syria will cause Iran to attack America. and
really,
like if you just follow the logic of that, it clearly says that America is you know, controlled by Israel.
yeah,
Do you see what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah,
And
for
you
sure.
see what it's just like come on, people, just use a little freaking imagination here. It's not that hard to understand the connection of these things. But what I find is that people aggressively ignore the truth. They aggressively don't want to know politics. Don't don't want to see the connection of things. But I
Mm,
have to say, at the same time, I'm also kind of like, well, what does knowing actually do? Like, is it enough just to say the truth? I don't really know that I believe that anymore. I feel as if like if I don't know how to put this without being too Fed posty, but like what if you can't change the damn thing? Just knowing about it doesn't really do anything. Does that make sense?
yeah, I
Um,
would say if you know about it, you know, talk about it and share it,
yeah,
and I think that in itself goes a long way. And I think that's the least people can do, basically, is
the least
is
I know.
is
Um,
talk about the problems. And I think
mhm,
after a while people get kind of fed up. I mean, I know at grassroots, for example, in the UK, that everyone is literally fed up with the levels of migration, but we're all just
massive.
taught and
Yeah,
told to shut up and
yeah.
accept it. And there's going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back at some point. And
Hmm.
you know, all of this chaos which will ensue through the natural conflicts which emerge out of lots of different groups being incompatible with each other, with different
Sure. Not
worldviews
only that,
and stuff.
they hate you. They hate you. They openly hate you. They openly
Yeah,
celebrate taking over your country. I mean, it's not like, you know, I'll say like, you know, a lot of Southeast Asians will come to America and they're like, oh my God, we're so grateful to be out of our hellhole, and we're, you know, we're going to do everything we can to fit in, and you know, or whatever. And I'm not saying I'm pro immigration or anything. That's not my point here or whatever. But like, I think it's pretty clear. Like the history of Islam is just a history of like conquest, and there's nothing more to it. That's
yeah,
how, you know,
and
that's how it spreads. It's by the
I think
sword. You
that's
know.
I think one thing that always stuck with me was the saying that you have to live as a state within a state until you're strong enough to take over. And
Correct. It's yeah.
I think culturally that's been bred into Muslims of how to
100%.
how to go about it. And I mean, I grew up with Muslims, and you know, they are generally when you're welcomed into the house, they are decent people. They're traditional in their views, um, and you know, they will ingratiate you, welcome you, be generous and hospitable and stuff. But I think
While they take
ultimately,
your country.
well, as a nation, they have an obligation to their nation of Islam, which ultimately trumps your personal relationship with them, if that makes sense. And so
Of
I
course,
think
of course, yeah.
culturally they kind of subscribe to um, breeding, working, being doing service jobs, and living life until it's time for the call, I think. And for the past sort of
The
50
call.
years in the UK, I think that's what they've been doing. And the
Hmm.
it's like they must, as they kind of go around taking a lot of the Westerners, like our women, and even, like, for example, myself as a youth would go out, get absolutely ratted, and then we'd go home in a taxi, kind of acting all degenerate and all pissed up, and being taken home by one of these, someone
Yeah,
who's likely Muslim, doing a
yeah,
service job, and they're probably thinking one day we're going to take over because of your
yeah.
incompetence of and living a
See,
godless
this
life.
is
You, you
every.
know,
I'm sorry to cut you off, but like every single time I have eye contact with a Muslim, I read that in their face. I read it directly coming straight out of their face that it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter
uh,
of time.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
yeah.
they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing, and they're laughing at us. It's sickening. It's
Well,
disgusting.
yeah, I think they're probably thinking you get your comeuppance, and I think it's your fault for letting your country. You're turning it
It's
over
not.
to
It's
us.
the government. The government is holding
Well,
us down
yes,
while this is happening.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's a multifaceted thing, but
Yeah.
we are ultimately the custodians of the land as well, and our
Mm.
ancestors have let it happen, and we're kind of, we've been given a bone, and we're chewing on it, and we're ignoring what's going on around us as we're chewing down on this bone and enjoying it and suckling on the marrow inside, and it's like, your country's being taken. um, you are living degenerate lives. You've forgotten God. You've stopped. You've abandoned your roots, and this has always happened to us every time we've lost track of what's important, of our
Mm.
faith in God, and of
Mm-hmm.
um, of our loyalties to each other, of the general laws which we thrive under. We've kind of abandoned them, and we've allowed traitors in our in positions of power, basically, and and we're kind of paying for it. So I think it's, yes and no. We are to blame, but also we are being heavily manipulated.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, it's complex. I I mean, how do I say? It's I feel like it's much worse in places like the UK, Canada, Australia, Denmark. There's still some kind of, I don't know. There's something in America where I feel like we still have a hold. We still have a chance.
You
And
you still got guns and a means of fighting,
yeah,
basically.
see, that's the
You've
big
still
one.
got a
That's a
means of
big one.
self-defense, and
Yeah, yeah.
you could muster up an army to counter an
Hmm.
army that's
Hmm.
mustered up against you, basically.
Yeah, and that's a good point. So I mean, and I'm very sure that Muslims are highly armed. I know for a fact that they have their own armaments and the rest of it. So it's not, if it comes to that, it's not going to be pretty. It'll be like a
Yeah, yeah.
massacre that we've never seen in history, in
There
our
will
history.
be,
But
yeah,
yeah.
it's gonna be riots. It's gonna be. I think it's gonna be worldwide, but this is part of the. This has always been part of the solution, the problem solution, hasn't it? I mean, even
Hmm.
from a, uh, well, I guess it's the idea is has always been sort of somewhat biblical, but even political. It's problem solution, and the problem worldwide will be, well, Albert, it's akin to Albert Pike's vision of a World War Three, isn't it? And if you've read about that, it's basically get people to be fighting in the streets to the point of absolute exhaustion, so that they're willing to accept any resolution that's provided that can bring some form of stability and peace of mind. And that is what people will eventually kind of give into. And I think things like COVID was somewhat of an experiment to test a lot
Yes.
of the
Yes.
resilience of people, wasn't
Right.
it?
To see how much they'll rebel or not.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
I mean,
Um.
even before they did a kind of a micro experiment in London, before a lot of the BLM riots. I remember in
What was
London there
that?
was it was something similar but on a smaller scale, and it kind of
Hmm.
spread from London and went into Birmingham, just similar things to the BLM riots. There was something on the news. They
Mm.
beefed it up, made a mountain out of a molehill type
Sure.
situation,
Yeah.
pushed it in the media, and they got a reaction just through sheer media coverage and distortion of the actual event. It got people riled up, and then they measured that and thought, look, how much power we have to wield. We can
Hmm.
harness this, and it's basically got people on frequency dials. That's what it is. Frequency dial
Yeah.
people that are just tuned
Yeah.
into your vibration. It's like a DJ playing a set, and it's like they've got these little tones, and they just go "Zzz," increase here, zzz, decrease
Yeah. Yeah.
there, increase,
Right.
decrease,
Drop
playing
the
a little
bass.
rhythm, yeah, and
Yeah.
then drop it like it's hot
Yeah.
for the finale.
Yeah. Right. I can remember during the Black Lives Matter riots seeing demonstrations in the UK for it, and I'm like, what? Like this is a strictly American issue. Why the hell? Like, how are there, demonstrations in the UK over this topic? Like,
For
no, there,
BLM,
I can't. Yeah,
yeah.
and it's obviously all like like not rigged, but like it's a show. It's theater. Somebody was like, okay, we're gonna get some da 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 da, and we're gonna pay these people something.
Uh-huh.
It's just all organized. I can't think of one time in America where there was some political event in the UK, and then Americans were like, "Oh my God, we've got to take to the streets and protest that situation."
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's not that we don't love you, but it's just like not how things work, kind of,
Yeah, we're a bit small fish compared to you. I think Americans
Well,
have been used to being sort of the center of their own world, haven't they?
I, I don't see it that way at all.
No.
I mean, you're the UK, man. You're England, man. You've got the history. You
Well, yeah, we
guys, like, the
have, we
whole
have, but
dude, the whole world speaks English, man. You're the number one language. Like, you're the king. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, kind of. But I think you guys, in terms of like culture and um, you especially post World War Two, America's has always been sort of top of the food chain, and had everything that they didn't really need to travel. I mean, most Americans haven't really been out of their sort of country, have they?
I would disagree with that, but I would
Really?
say the older generations are less traveled than the younger generations.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
Like, the
perhaps.
younger they get, the more traveled they are.
Okay.
Um, it's I think there's a, how do I put it? So it seems that in Europe there is a kind of stereotype about Americans,
Mm-hmm.
and it comes from the fact that I'd say that the majority of the Americans that they see or meet are either tourists or people in the military. And, like, what is a tourist but a tourist? They're there to enjoy, take photos, have fun, and go. And what's the military? Usually, like, I hate to say it, but a lot of dregs, a lot of people that are, like, they're gonna go out and drink and have fights and screw
Hmm.
prostitutes and shit. They're not the best America has to offer. And I'm not
True,
trying
true.
to knock the military, but it's just known. It's just a known thing.
Hmm.
So I don't blame, Europeans for having these views, but it's an unfair assessment of America. It's a very unfair
Yeah,
assessment.
and also the what we see on TV of Americans, it's a sort of a glamorized version, isn't it? I mean, I remember growing
Probably.
up. I remember growing up, and I was so I used to watch a lot of the sort of American shows, and I used to want
Mm-hmm.
to be like an actor when I was a kid, and I was quite into
Oh,
sort of
cool.
performing arts and just naturally
Nice.
kind of just generally I was a creative kid, so I found routes of ways to express it, and acting was one of them. And I used to watch
Mm-hmm.
American shows and sort of like copy Home
Nice.
Alone and have visions of like being an actor and pretending to be
Nice.
Macaulay
Nice.
Culkin. And but yeah, I mean, I I think
That's funny.
we used to watch a lot of American shows, and even for example, you stretch as far as like my wife here in Romania. Most people learn English by watching American films. So
Wow.
the influence of America is you probably underestimate it.
I think you're probably right. I will say, when I lived in Asia, it never ceased to amaze me how people would react when they would see me, and they would treat me like a movie star. I kid you not.
Really, wow.
And I mean, in Japan, Taiwan, Thailand, Hong Kong. Not so much Hong Kong, because they're already, they've been occupied or whatever. There's a British colony, so that's not so much there.
Well,
But
they prefer British
um,
colony than under a Chinese
oh
regime
God,
now.
I'm
That's for
I would
sure.
I'm sure the Hong Kong people
I
would
think they
would agree with you.
experienced a bit too much freedom under
Oh boy, you
British
you can't
rule.
take that back. Yeah, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. But I mean, I there was one time when I was just one experience. I was just traveling around, visiting some small town somewhere, and some lady just literally came out of nowhere with like a bag full of exotic fruits or whatever, and just like handed it to me. Like,
Uh,
and the Taiwanese person I was with at the time got angry about it. Like, why do you get that kind of special treatment that people just give you stuff? And I'm like, I can't help. I mean, I don't know. But like in the more remote areas, and I don't know, people may have seen stuff like in Japan. You have like the school kids will like follow you around, and they giggling and like trying to speak English with you
uh-huh.
and stuff. And it's
Hmm.
charming. It's charming. It's really harmless. But in the end, though, it's really not a good thing, because we're all just humans. We're not rock stars and movie stars, and we have our problems, and so do they. Like, we in the West see the people like in Japan through a romantic lens as well, and
Yeah,
they
yeah,
got their
yeah.
own problems. So it's just
I
how it
think
is.
so. Just a
So
quick
I
shout out to someone in the chat, the Great White Ape. Thanks for tuning in. Made a comment on my artwork. The posture, Paul, looks really good. Not leaning in too far to the other individual. So yeah, is he saying he is or he isn't? I think he looks fine. But if you want to clarify that point, please do in the chat. But yeah, thanks again for tuning in. Appreciate your support. Are there any questions on your end of the pond from the chat at all?
and just a lot of great comments from a lot of great people. Ulfric made an interesting comment. Zionism is placing the interest of Jays above all other groups, especially one's own group. So, for example, Japan just announced that they will be allowing immigrants in, and they've had
Wow.
and I can tell you things that are not you're not supposed to know about that. So, like, um, I don't know what you would call this position. The guy in the government who's in charge of the economics of the country. What's the name of that position? Uh, the head of that, whatever. But anyway, I found an interview with him, of course, translated into English, and he was asked, "Why did you join this?" I don't know if it was I can't remember what it was, but it was some kind of international monetary system that Japan was not that was like, we're saying we don't want to be a part of that, and because they know the way the banks work, they know
Mm-hmm.
the way that the small hats work. They want to be separate, and so this is the guy. He's the head of the government office on economics of Japan, and he says in the interview, I had to join because I was told that uh, there are there's weapons that can cause earthquakes,
Mm-hmm.
and that
Coerced.
if I didn't do this, then Japan, they would hit Japan with earthquake after earthquake until we joined. And
Mm-hmm.
sure enough, like shortly after, he said no, there was a major earthquake in a certain area.
Wow, really? That's
And
crazy.
so like this is recorded now. I mean, try to think this through. Like the Japanese they're not us, they're not Westerners, they're not Europeans. They're not stuck in the mire of that whole, like, say what you're supposed to say on camera. They're still free enough and maybe naive enough or not controlled enough where they can just say the damn truth. you know and so for Japan to be allowing hordes of Africans and Middle Easterners and South Americans into their country for as a workforce, that's globalism destroying Japan. And so this is
Yeah,
the
yeah.
point I'm trying to make. I explained all of that to say one thing: the Goyim is not just white people, it's all non-Jews. And communism is not just for white countries, it's for all of the world.
Yeah, well, it's
You
it's
see what I'm
it's
saying?
the global Babylon, isn't
Yeah,
it? I mean, that's what they are
totally.
looking to create. But I mean, this is
Totally.
all,
Yeah.
biblical stuff. It's the pursuit of a one world governance system has always been something that man has strived for. We've spoken about this in
Mm.
previous streams, haven't we? But
Yeah.
I think there's now more than ever, it could be achieved through tech, technology, and
It's being achieved. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and the means by which to achieve. I mean, let's say hypothetically everyone agreed to have a chip implanted in the head because it's going to
Mm.
cure loads of ailments, or they have to, like the current AI trend, you're going to get left behind if you don't somehow utilize it. Your productivity won't be able to match that of someone else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
hypothetically, in 20 years, 30 years, there's chips out to implant in your brain so you can think 10 times quicker or something, or streamline your thoughts better.
Mm-hmm.
um
Mm.
you know Unless you want to kind of get left behind, you're going to have to embrace this sort of new sort of transhumanist kind of means. And
Mm-hmm.
and I think once that happens, once people get on that bandwagon, it's free
It's
will
over.
is yeah free will
It's
is what
over.
is under attack really here. Free will, to the point
Mm.
where people will be um programmed, like, and it's all almost sort of here, but it's only sort of it's done through systems of media. But once that's
Mm-hmm.
done through systems of actual technological control mechanisms, there's no
Mm-hmm.
way out of
Mm-hmm.
it, is there?
Yeah. No. And I mean, it's all sold to you like, oh, wouldn't it be great that you can just, open your Gmail with your mind? Won't that be fantastic? And I mean, people that, I mean, I don't know how to say it, but like they're sold into it somehow. Like there's some kind of like, I don't know, marketing, and the power of marketing and TV and social programming is extremely strong.
Mm-hmm.
And we see that all the time. Like every single TV commercial is deracinated, every single movie and da 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 is the white man bad, and on and on and on. It's just like and so we're these subtle messages that keep coming through and keep coming through. They just keep warping society. They keep distorting culture to a point where, like, when and how will we ever go back? Because you figure once you leave the countryside, and you're and like you don't know how to survive in nature, or all of these other things, then there's just no way back. And I don't know,
Yeah,
it's really
yeah.
terrifying. It's just really, really
It
terrifying. So like,
it is. I mean, it is, but
mm,
and I don't want to, you know, keep dropping like black pills. I think we're it's
yeah, yeah, yeah,
nice to allude to the truth, but I still firmly believe that we will break free from the shackles. I think they're gonna fail. I think there's no way our human spirit, is gonna. I think we thrive under pressure. I mean, it's a cliche kind of bit cheesy, but diamonds are made under pressure, and
yeah,
we will
yeah,
emerge shining, glorious, pressure cooked, pressure refined,
yeah.
like the finest carat gold, the
Uh,
shiniest, sparkliest, hardest diamond, and
that's funny.
yeah, we're gonna come out of it. I mean, it's gonna be bloody, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think yeah,
Yeah. So
I think that it will
my
take the
take,
true reset. You know, the great reset. It will take
right.
a great reset, but it will be a societal
Hmm.
reset that will emerge naturally from
Yeah,
the
yeah.
environmental circumstances, and we'll come out on top.
Mm. So my take is that it's going to be half and half. There will be those who succumb and
Hmm.
get stuck into the system, and they'll be gone. There won't be any way to save them. And then the rest of us. And I
True.
see it as like an ongoing kind of war, at least maybe until a certain time. I can't say. I mean, nobody knows the future, but I do kind of feel that we're not all going to fall for it. And at
No.
some point, something's going to fall apart. So I'm not black pilled about it. I don't know. I mean, I don't have
Well,
a crystal ball.
no.
I
I
can't
mean,
really say that.
not to say that you're a black pill, but I mean, it's easy to talk about the looming fears and stuff, and and I
Hmm.
think
Hmm.
we're justified in pointing them out, to make people
Hmm.
aware, because awareness is
Sure.
key, and
Oh
fear
yeah.
is a teacher. Fear is one of the greatest teachers that we have.
Yeah.
We have to
That's a good
fear.
point.
We have to
That's a good
fear
point.
what is
Yeah.
coming. We
Yeah.
can't go through life thinking, "Oh, everything's all right. We've done that, and look, this is where
Hmm.
it's got us." Like, for example, the fear of God is a good thing.
Hmm.
Say, "Oh, you're not
Hmm.
supposed to fear." Why would God want you to fear Him? God wants you to fear Him because uh, to keep you on the right path. You know, the fear of
Hmm.
God is the beginning of wisdom. And
Hmm.
that is, you have to fear the you have to feel the punishments. I mean, who didn't have a dad when they were older that they were scared of? When you did something wrong, you knew about it. Your dad was gonna find out. I used to
Yeah.
get so irate. I was.
Uh,
My brother used to, when he knew he did something bad, he would he would go and put like loads of socks and roll them up and put them down his pants and on his backside. So when
oh my God! Really, that's
he
wild.
knew my
That
dad
is
would come back,
what a story.
given an absolute hiding, and he's got all these like socks cushioning his ass.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it worked a few
That's
times until my dad sussed it out.
he sussed it out. Funny. I mean, that's a good analogy right there. I think that people have to fear consequences. I always say that you have freedom of choice, but you don't have freedom of consequence. And when you say that, people kind of shudder because they're like, they, especially liberals. Oh my God, they don't want any. They want to just go wild. I can have as many abortions as I want, and I
Hmm.
can blah blah blah. Just how that goes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and it's in a way it's the difference between say a boy and a man, or a girl and a woman. Like, it's about maturity, mental, emotional, social, spiritual maturity. So
Hmm.
it comes in time. But
It
yeah,
does.
I mean, I really don't know how people navigate life without God. I can't, and I I'm not like the guy preach or whatever, but speaking for myself, especially through the hardships that I've been going through, which have been off the charts, I really hit a low that I'd never thought I'd hit. Like I really was like, I want out. Like I can't take it anymore. And that's not me. That's not me at all. I'm not like that. And so to get to a point where I was so overwhelmed and I was thinking like that is just pretty rough. And then, that's where friends come in. That's when you got to get some help. That's when you have to like reach out and say, guys,
well,
I'm going through some heavy shit.
Yeah, I mean, that's talking about it. And I remember, I could sense in you didn't ever say to me, "Oh, is there any way you can help me at all?" Or say to your friends. You've not said once, encouraged us to help you. It's just you, were quite. It was noticeable in your kind of demeanor, I think. And I think when you notice these things about someone that is within your circles, and we need to embody we need to embody our beliefs as nationalists. We're supposed to help each other out. I mean, as nationalists, we are called to be whether you're religious or not, it's a brotherhood, and it's you have to embody that spirit of helping each other out, because there's no way out of out of what we're all going through collectively through atomized behaviors. So we need to practice now helping each other out. Like we need to be selfless individuals. We need to consider what others might be going through, thinking from their perspective, and just kind of embodying that role of kinship brotherhood. And it was just noticeable with yourself, and obviously us guys banded together and kind of shared some thoughts and ideas, and kind of evolved from that. And so here we are now. And yeah, you touched on a point earlier about this being something moving forward that will continue, like a collective art-based charity, or subsequent donations that, say, for example, when you're back on your feet and you're like, okay, I'm back on my feet, I'm stable again now. Okay, so let's. Who else couldn't we kind of help? We've got this sort of these regular donations.
You nailed it.
Who else? Who else do you think is in need? And I've already got a few people that I can think of that might need help. And it's that kind of thing that we're looking to try and build a community based sort of charity giving, and it's what a lot of even Muslims do for each other. It's a brotherhood, and churches do that as well a lot. They help and give to each other. But as people that have distinct sort of beliefs and ideals, I think we need to really direct that towards each other, don't we?
So I don't know about your end, but on my end, we're getting zapped by
we're getting zapped again. Yeah. And is it? Did you turn on your flight because it didn't come on last week?
So your audio is super crunchy and it's echoing. I don't know. I guess we're trying to create like a house music thing here with this. So just gotta get some beats behind it. Make something up. I don't. Maybe I'll chat a little bit.
Did you put your flight mode on today?
I did not.
See,
I did not.
That's the difference between this week and last week. I'm going to remind you next week, because we know the problem now.
All right, let me speak. If I were to do that right now, I'm afraid that I would lose it.
Yeah. I know. We're coming up to an hour anyway. I think.
I am actually.
Yeah.
I'm sort of finished with my piece. Let me just. Sorry. I feel that this is mostly finished. So, how are you doing on your end? What's going on? over there?
I'm still drawing. I've got a ways
Let's
to
hear
go. But I think I'm never going to finish today
why
anyway.
don't
So
let,
I'm going to finish this
why
over the
don't
weekend.
why don't let me take over for a little while. I'm going to see if I can address some comments in the chat and or
Okay.
take questions in the chat.
I'll mute.
So let me look through here. I guess we'll just get right into it. So Hippocratic Oath, a buddy of mine, great to have you here. It's always great to have you. He's a highly intelligent friend of mine. He's talking about the Tower of Babel experiment again. They never got.
I think we're back now.
Yeah, you're better now. Your audio is better. Like the country of Israel. This is the thing: is everybody is looking at history through a warped lens, and who warped that lens? Who stole those narratives? The more you know, the more you know. You know, like
Yeah.
I think you know what I'm trying to refer to here.
Yeah.
I don't expect I don't expect the common person to know this. I don't even expect everyone in the dissident right to know this. But if you do your due diligence and you research history, you start to find out this co-opting of the white narrative, white history, Christianity, and so on, is done by a certain group of people. And they have a certain religion and a certain value system and blah, 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 blah. And so we've really been at civilizational war for centuries. How, how much of it is really truly controlled and contrived, and how much of it is just sort of historic accident, I can't tell you. And I don't want to come across like I'm obsessed with the little hats. I know about it, but like my interest now is in building culture, is in creating solutions, mainly culturally, because I think the number one issue is that our people are all brainwashed. They don't know who they are because they don't know their true history. They've lost touch with God in many cases, and we have to heal our own people. And through doing that, it's kind of like if you had, let's say, you had a giant polar bear in your living room. You would want to drug it to keep it sleepy so that it's not going to wake up and kill you. You know, that's what we are. We're being drugged and drugged and drugged by many kinds of things: the LGBT agenda, Marxism, feminism, on and on and on. And that's just that's not even the half of it. So we have to wake up. And how do we do that? Culture and education. And so, I mean, I'm not. That's who I was. How do I say that? I'm born with these skill sets. So that's what I bring to the table. If I were a military guy or a politician or somebody else, I would do something else. I always feel that, people who are in the know, like we are, who are, in law enforcement or intelligence, they have a responsibility to use their position for our freedom, for our liberation from this system. How many people in those fields are in the know, though? I would venture probably not a lot, but I do know some. My buddy CG and Dirty D and those military guys, they're all in the know. So what can they do? Well, that's a tough call because you're dealing with you know, giant organizations with like massive amounts of power, and they can suicide you. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like, so what can you really do? And that's kind of that echoes back to my earlier point about, is it enough to just know? Like, you know, yeah, we're being silenced all the time, but does that even fix anything? You know, if every single white person in the world knew the whole truth, what would that do? You know, the most I think we can do is opt out. Perhaps we can prosecute and jail the corrupt people in government, corrupt people in law, like, you know, lawyers, judges, cops, people that are working, you know,
Mm.
for the anti-white system, you know, and clean out these systems, to purge these systems of these sociopaths,
Well, how did we
of
get
which,
here in the first place? You know, like how how did it come about? And it seems to me like, you know, the that liberal mindset kind of crept into our institutions slowly over time, and just how, you know, like a, you know, a weed or a plant grows. You know, it starts with the seed and it's underground, and you don't see the roots taking you know, taking position, and then they spring up from the soil, and it's like, whoa, where did that come from? And then it gets, you know, more and more kind of momentum and hostile, to the point where you know, it needs to be uprooted. But you
yeah.
know, I think we could take a similar approach in how it came about in the first place, and just reverse it, um, by just gaining positions of and key positions of influence, and in our institutions, and just slowly take things back if we can.
So yeah, I mean, that brings up some interesting questions, because we don't, the system, the government, media, etc., is totally infiltrated, like
Hmm.
totally. It's my view is it all has to go down, like a, you know, scorched earth. It totally replaced it. The question, you know, one might say, you know, maybe the system itself is failed and broken. Like, democracy to me is bullshit. It's just absurd. Like, it's not a system that works. It's so easily infiltrated. It only
Yeah,
works for in groups. I mean, even I'm not even going to try to go down that road so far. But then, so then, how do you, you know, these people have all the power. So what do you do? Do you create a whole new world and then they go after you? Or do you destroy them? Do you have a revolution and go to war with the powers that be? You know, we would much rather not do that. You know, like, nobody wants that. No, and I don't think we even have the resources to do that. So it's not even really an option. But and this is the whole thing, is the creative problem solving, and that's, you know, where we are now. It appears that, you know, developing culture is the most we can do. You know,
hmm, yeah,
uh,
build
I
community.
don't like. Yeah, it's not. I think, you know, we all have our angers and frustrations, and, you know, there's a kind of a subculture of like fash wave and, you know,
I think
things that
that's
are like,
just more fun, isn't it?
yeah,
It's more
that's
like
what I'm trying to get
meme
across.
cased, and
That's exactly what I'm trying to get across here. Is it's a power fantasy. It's a revenge fantasy. It's not really any different than video games and movies in that regard, because nobody's doing anything. We don't have militias. We don't have rocket launchers. We don't have nuclear weapons. You see what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like, they
yeah,
can say everything they want about us to demonize us, but actually we're just people. We're just normal people that want to save our countries. We're normal
yeah, yeah.
nationalists. You know?
I know what you mean. I think
Yeah.
I mean, they don't do anything directly, a lot of these movements and groups, but they help. I think they do help in shaping the environments. They help to shape the landscape a little bit, in the sense of identity. Um, you know, so people that are into the meme culture and sort of right wing meme culture, they help to identify kind of people that they could get along with, and so on. And I think it's like pockets of micro culture, isn't it? that form out of things like Flash
Hmm.
Wave and so on, and I think
Sure.
eventually over time, you'll find just like how corporations grow and absorb other entities and gain more power. I think over time, as you know, the line in the sand is drawn and the divide gets further between the left and the right, the inevitable outcome is that these sort of the more right wing groups and all the different fractions will eventually merge together as well. So, I mean, that is just a pure conceptual kind of
Yes.
perspective. It's not
Hmm.
kind
Hmm.
of it's just a theory, but
I
that's
hear you.
how I
I hear
see
you.
it kind of taking shape, if you know
It's
what I
fair
mean.
enough because I mean this is kind of the nature of politics. It's like a bunch of moving pieces on a chessboard.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
no like 1 + 1 = 2 type of answer. It's highly complex. And so, just for example, who could have predicted that like Kanye West of all people would come out on the Jews? We're like, what? That came out of left field, and that set
I
the
think he soon learned
stage
though, didn't
for
he?
he got the call, if you know what I mean. So he had to bow anyway. I'm sure he didn't want his family to get suicided, but
I, but
thanks,
I
Masad.
think the
Anyway,
funniest thing there was that he's basically, his bank accounts got shut down pretty much straight away. So, you know,
oh yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
if anyone
yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
think like, hmm, like a
Right. I mean,
like
it's obvious.
a
This is
chin
my
scratch
point: is
moment.
they prove our points. Like when you come out and expose them, and then they shut down your bank account, or it's like, duh, you just fucking proved my point, idiot. Like I mean, but at the same time, it's political terrorism. It's making an example out of a person to tell the rest of the public, don't dare raise your head,
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
dare raise your voice, don't post that meme, don't write that song, don't make that art, don't form that group, don't blah blah
Not
blah blah.
exactly.
So it's terrorism, I mean,
Yeah,
in
it
in
is.
ultimately. So, but what I'm trying to get to though is that if that didn't happen, it wouldn't have, how do we say, it set the stage for Candace Owens to call out what's our little buddy's name,
Ben
uh,
Shapiro.
Ben Shapiro.
Yeah.
So
He's getting a lot of
and
heat,
like
isn't he? I'm not following
I
it too much, but he's
I'm
getting some
loving it.
heat, that's for sure.
I am loving it. I'm loving it. Watching him squirm. Yeah.
I
Anyway.
never realized how anti-white he was, really, to be honest.
Oh God.
I
Oh
thought
my
that he
God.
was kind of a little bit more, uh, you know, he's America was a little bit more close to his heart, but it clearly
No,
isn't.
no. It's always a lie. It's always an act. It's always controlled opposition. That's the whole point of it. Is to pretend like it's like Vivek Ramaswamy. Okay, he's the new flavor
Oh
of
yeah, I've seen him.
controlled opposition.
He's very
So he
convincing, isn't he?
so let me finish the point. So the guy had his law degree paid for by George Soros. He is a World Economic Forum graduate, like Obama. He got his millions by creating. He basically bought a drug from the pharmaceutical industry that failed its test to help people with Alzheimer's disease. And then he put a new name on it. He paid off some people to fudge the data, and he put the product back on the market, which
Wow.
didn't help anybody, but he made millions from it. And so this is the way they work. They're
It's
scumbags.
the
Okay.
rotating
So
door. You've heard that, haven't you?
I'm I'm just setting up my point. So now my
Okay.
point is he comes out like a gangbusters, and he's using all of our right-wing talking points. He literally, I mean, anybody just has to scan our Twitters, our YouTubes, whatever, and just copy paste every single thing we say. Then you got this Indian dude out there who's got a nice, car salesman smile, and he's saying our talking points, and people are like, damn it, he's right, holy shit, I'm voting for that guy. It's because we on the dissident right are so censored and ghettoized that the common normie make America great voter doesn't even know our talking points because we're Nazis. Oh, don't watch out for the Nazis. You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that's what it is. It's controlled opposition. The good news is he is actually mainstreaming our talking points without really. Maybe he knows it. I don't know. But the point
I
is,
think yeah.
he's like hanging out with Trump, like he's Trump's little buddy.
I
You know,
seen
and that's
I saw an interaction with them actually, and I thought it was very interesting because they were shaking hands, and
right.
as they do these
So
public handshakes, they kind of like one up each other, don't they? And
what this would indicate is that the New World Order knows, and I'm just calling it the New World Order, they know that Trump is probably going to win and that they can't steal another election without the system falling to pieces somehow or other. And so they're trying to kind of infiltrate, get in there. And I hate to say it, but I don't think Trump is smart enough. That sounds kind of shocking, but unless he's playing along with it to just kind of go along to get along, and then like when he's a president, maybe if we're
no,
lucky,
I think
he'll.
he to be honest, I think he sees himself as the a sort of like a prospecting messiah figure for the Jews. To be honest,
Okay, so this is the question that I'm proposing is he gonna throw us under the bus? Is he actually?
yeah, I
And
think he will.
there's more evidence that he will work for the Jews than for America. So I'm not hopeful about that. I think that the economy will get better. I think that immigration will slow down but not stop. Do you see what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
It's just it's a war of attrition, a war of attrition. So that means a little more and a little more and a little more, and you can't stop it. And it's like cancer. You're just slowly going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got to do something. We got to cut out the cancer. That's all I can say. What's the chemotherapy for the New World Order? Is it art?
Yeah, well, one thing advice is fasting, but I don't think that's gonna work in this situation.
Yeah, like I said, like they have all the power, so we've got to be clever. Somehow we have to figure out a way around this.
I think
Um,
the weight of the system, it'll collapse under its own weight at some point. Nature sometimes just takes over itself, and I think it'll be the case of we just need to stay strong, build community, and opportunities will present itself whereby we just are we have to survive, and then it's we survive, you survive,
yeah. So
and
the
that's it. I think the beast system will just collapse under its own weight. I think.
the chess game goes on. In other words,
Yeah, and then
you
it'll
know.
be absolute tribalism. We might get set back like a few hundred years or maybe
Mm,
longer. I don't know, but
hmm
um, unless we go into this dystopian sort of futuristic techno diluvian. What do you call it?
Like
Uh,
Blade Runner, is that what we're talking
yeah,
about?
yeah, kind of like underground, but with high tech stuff, picking up
Oh, I
different
understand. Yeah.
sort of radio waves and frequencies, and you know, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, I
But
mean,
it'll be interesting.
humanity overall is not at all ready for what's coming, and it's coming at a bullet's pace. So AI, robotics, genetic engineering, UFOs, like things are,
In
portals. I mean, everything is on 10 right now,
all of these
all at the
robots
same
that we
time.
see, all these robots we see on like Facebook and doing all
Hmm.
these obstacle courses. It's like we're watching them. And all of these are going to be used against to control us at some
Hmm.
point.
Hmm.
It might
Hmm.
be
Hmm.
one just turn up control down your street one day, like
Yeah,
two or three of
they do.
them, and they're just there
They're doing that.
like, don't move. It's like
They're
move.
doing that in New York.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to cut you off. They're doing
Sorry.
that in New York City already. They already have robot
Wow.
police officers. So, yeah. I mean, I saw a report on it. I don't know how many there are. Da da da. They use those like dog. They look like dogs. They have like four legs,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
and they're being used. Of course, drone warfare is huge in the military already. Um,
But
it's obvious. It's just
we might
obvious
get
that.
you might get like the cool hacker types, these like genius kids, and I think that's where we'll thrive because end of the day we created all this shit from our minds, our people, and when we finally collectivize and realize that we need to survive, we'll start to invent things and ways to survive. It's just about
So
channeling our
here's the
abilities for our
okay. Like
own good.
imagine if whites thought of themselves the same way Muslims think of themselves. It's a meme in our culture, white Sharia. This idea that like it doesn't matter what country they're from or where they live, they're all in the quote nation of Islam. And
Hmm.
so like it's religion that makes them think that way. And so it begs the question, we need a white racial religion.
But that's what Christianity is, or it was.
Yeah.
Under the
And that
Crusades, it
goes
was it was
right.
a covenant people. That's
Yeah, yeah.
essentially what it was. It was a covenant people.
Right. Right, right.
The house of Israel, the house of Judah. That's what the Bible prophesied. That's who received it. That's who the apostles went to bring the gospel, new covenant message to, plan of
Mm-hmm.
redemption. And that's what transpired, and that's when we thrived. And to me, that's my opinion, is that's the antidote as well. It's a regathering of under our own sort of covenant as a covenant
So
people to
let let me
yeah.
piggyback on that. I because we know that there's the so okay, you've got on the one side on the left, you've got the Judeo-Christians. On the
Hmm.
right, you have Christian nationalism. And that in America is extremely white. It's white and rural and gun loving. You see,
Yeah.
and there's a strong racial component to it, even though they're not us. They're not, they don't know what American Renaissance is or any of that kind of stuff. They're simple people,
Is that, you mean, the likes of Gab?
Oh, definitely,
Because he
definitely,
he
but
he's
more.
he regards himself as a Christian nationalist, right?
Yeah, Andrew Torba for sure
And
is
yeah,
he's
yeah.
one of the top Christian nationalists. But I would say even people like Stu Peters. Stu Peters
I
is
don't really
he
know.
used to be just he's a popular right wing media guy. He's got his own channel. He's not on the level of say like Alex Jones, but he's not small. He's got a giant audience. It's like his own little news network. He's gone full throttle Aristotle on the Jews like
Okay.
crazy. Like he's off the charts now. He is where most of us started. Like years ago when you figured it all out, it was like your hair is on fire. You just freaking out like, oh my God, I have to scream this to the hills. I gotta wake everybody up. This is like I've come to the end of the rabbit hole. This is the answer. And this is the fulcrum of everything. If I can just tell everybody, it'll all get better, like that. So, anyway, it's happening, and then Candace Owens, huge Christian, like very strong Christian advocate. And many others. There's, whatever. I don't know all their names or whatever, but there's always a sort of a Christian connection. Nick Fuentes is a massive, like the dude's Catholic. He's like,
Mm-hmm.
he wants to force people to convert to Catholicism. Like it's,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But like that's it. Like
I think that to a certain extent, not necessarily forced conversion, but I think
yeah,
there should be a definite amalgamation of sort of church law and state law. Law of the
I can
land
see that.
is
I can see that.
rooted in the religion and faith, because it was a separation of the church and state, which basically allowed for foreign belief systems to take root, and that's really the beginnings of a
Interesting.
multitude of
Wow.
cultures and
Fascinating.
and
Fascinating.
systems. I mean, we have
Yeah.
to be somewhat cohesive as a people and have a
Yeah. Yeah.
united culture. And if we're going to have a religion, I think we need to have the same one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
So it's within the dissident right, it's a hotly debated topic,
yeah,
and we
yeah, it
all
is.
know
It is.
the different positions, and like I'm not trying to throw shade on my pagan friends, my Apollonian friends. I'm basically a Gnostic myself. So I my the movement is about winning. The movement is about stopping white genocide, and you know it's an important discussion. Um, I think that we need to do whatever it takes to stop the death of Western civilization. And then once we have that luxury of survival, then we can, hammer out those differences. These people can go on and do what they want to do. Those people can do what they want to do. But Western civilization has to be refortified so that this shit
Hmm.
never, ever, ever, ever happens in history again. You know what I mean? And that's going to take a total white racial awakening, a total whatever that a new zeitgeist of like an absolute awakening. So that's what we're trying to do in the culture here. That's what we're trying to do. So everybody watching the show should be sharing the hell out of it. Should be engaging as much as you can, both personally and online. Um, Again, maybe you want it's we're going on like an hour and a half here. I don't know
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
want
yeah. No, it's
to
fine.
do a little.
I know you finished. Sorry, I was just plugging away as we were chatting.
You're
Uh,
good. You're good.
I'm going to finish this off in the week as I usually do, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'll do a video, time lapse video that I release the weekend. Probably just knock a bit of color into this. Just a few shout outs to the people that showed their face in the chat. Rory Herbert, thanks for tuning in. The Great White Ape, thank you
Mm-hmm.
again. Who else is 77th Brigade? St. Thomas Aquinas. Yeah, thank you guys. Really appreciate you tuning in.
Uh,
Um, Carry
Go
on.
ahead. Oh no,
No,
I just wanted to welcome a new. I don't think Corey's new, but I don't think I'm not sure if he's new or I haven't seen him in a very long time. But I wanted to welcome Corey Wolke, if I'm pronouncing that right. A lot of great commentary there. Also, of course, great commentary by my regular buddies, Hippocratic Oath, Ulfric, Conch is here again. It's just a blast. I love you guys. It's great to have an inner core of like buddies that come to these shows and are in the know and have intelligent and useful and productive things to say. I like that nobody's insulting anybody, that also Colin Bruder. It's great to have you back. It's just great to see community here. I want to say hi to Splattercat again. So yeah, we're also maybe want to just wrap it up with a quick review of the Help a Brother Out campaign, and then we
yeah,
can wrap it
sure.
up.
So yeah, firstly, thanks a lot for tuning in, guys. So this podcast stream we were dedicating to the theme of help a brother out, which is I'll just quickly cover it again. We're doing a collective art commission / auction for with a view to help Donald Kemp with his current situation, and this is a sort of a prelude event as well to continue this form of charity and aid for other people in the future, likely aimed towards creative individuals in the movement as well. So we're trying to gather together a sort of maybe a monthly charitable donation, and in return we will create an artwork based on basically when you give a donation, suggest an idea or a brief or something you'd like to see. You can be detailed as you like with it, and then the winners will be chosen at a certain cut-off date by myself or Donald. We'll pick 3 winners or so, and then we'll create it, and we hope that this will be an ongoing thing in the future. The link will be in the description to the actual charity page, and it's going to be shared properly from other organizations such as the Patriotic Alternative, American Freedom, I believe. I keep forgetting their name, sorry.
American Freedom Party.
Yeah, American Freedom Party, yeah. And obviously White Art Collective as well are getting involved. So a number of organizations are looking to really help Donald and like I say, this sort of charitable movement. So yeah, get involved, and even if you donated, say £3, a cup of coffee or something worth, it's all contributes and adds up to a nice total that can really make a difference in someone else's life. And yeah, and then you get to see some cool art as well, and we'll send you an
Indeed.
actual piece.
Right, right. And I mean, I can't really thank you enough, Patriarch, for putting this together, for conceiving of it. And like we discussed it on the show, it's a
Well,
beautiful thing, and I think it's a.
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I think the actual idea came from someone called Tuesday. I don't want to take full credit for that. I mean, we
Mm.
brainstormed. That was part of it. It was a
Oh,
collective brainstorm. But I
oh,
think
okay.
I think if I remember rightly,
He's
it was a Tuesday that
he's a close
stood
friend of
out.
mine.
Yeah,
Okay.
and they mentioned something about a sort of a commission based incentive, so it
Oh my
wasn't just
God.
donating. So
Wow.
yeah, I think that they put that thought in my mind, and I kind of thought, right, yeah, that is brilliant.
Wow.
And I kind of
I'll
wanted
have
to run with it and kind of pushed it forward. But yeah, I don't want to
wow.
take really, I don't want you to kind of credit me too much with that.
Well, I'll
So,
have to reach out to him. That's so cool. He's always behind the scenes. He's an awesome guy.
right,
All right. Well, God bless everybody.
no worries.
Hello and goodbye, and we will see you next week, Tuesday, for another installment of Patriotic Arts Live.